What's up guys, Davidonthereg here, and today we're going to go through the Magknight's default FMC, and I'm going to show you guys how to set it up from start to finish. So let's get started. Okay, so hopping into the cockpit, I'm just going to go through a few things when it regards to actually filing a flight plan and getting your flight plan dispatched here. What I use to actually dispatch my flights is SimBrief, and I'll show a small screenshot demonstration on screen right now. So I've already set up the whole flight here on SimBrief. You just have to fill out a bit of flight information. So we're flying Air Canada. Our flight number is 1980. We're departing from CYYZ, which is Toronto Pearson Airport, and then we're arriving at LAX, which is KLAX, and then we have an alternate at KONT. There's the date and then departing time, and then you also have to fill out the aircraft type. So for me, I filled it out with Boeing 737-9 because we're in the -9 variant of the Magknight. Make sure you have that filled out, or else you won't be able to generate the OFP, which is really important to get most of the information that you're going to need to actually plug into the FMC. You can also see down where it says optional entries, you can fill out what runway it is that you want to take off from. I also actually have it set up so that whenever I plug in everything up top, it automatically generates in, which is, I believe, what SimBrief has by default. And you can see that today we'll be departing from runway 23, and our arrival runway is actually runway 25 left. So we're gonna have to keep that in mind for our departure. If we fly down to the route section, you can see that we're taking the Ursel 3 departure via the Zohan transition, and when we're arriving in LAX, we'll be taking the Angel 2 arrival via Hackman transition there. So that's going to be what we're going to be plugging into the departing and arrivals page into the FMC. So if you go to the top of your SimBrief page, you should see a button that says Generate OFP. If we click that, it's going to bring us to this page right here. In this page, you can see your cruise altitude that SimBrief gives you. It also gives you your air time, and also your zero fuel weight, which is going to be extremely helpful when setting up the onboard performance weight and fuel balance data. And it also gives you the block fuel, so you'll be taking that and plug it into your weight and balance to make sure you have enough fuel for the whole flight. If you scroll down, you can also see that it gives you a map of where you're going to fly. You can see we're flying from Toronto there down to the left, where below that you have your paperwork preview. I don't really look at this too much than to find wind information and whatnot, but I'll cover that in a different video. You go all the way to the bottom, you'll see that you can actually download the FMS data for XP11, XP10, and so many other types of aircrafts. There's also like the ProSim 737 PMDG aircraft, but in this tutorial we're going to focus on XP11 and specifically the Magknight. Since we are actually using the default FMC, what we're going to do is we're just going to download the FMS data for XP11. So hopping back into the sim, I've already thrown the FMS data into the FMS plans folder in my XPlane root folder. So all you have to do is throw it in there, and then we're just going to go down to the FMC here. I actually have a custom view set up for this, and let's get started. So upon loading up your aircraft, you should just see a page like this. You might have something at the bottom that says like nav data out of date or something like that. And to clear that, all you have to do is click the CLR button here, and that should clear any errors or messages coming up on the bottom side of the FMC. Next, what you want to do is navigate to route menu, and then since we're on the pilot side, we're going to select pilot route list, and then F plan, which stands for flight plan, and then we're going to start entering everything in here. I've already thrown in CYYZ, which is our departing runway, but whatever airport you're taking off from, just throw the ICAO code in there. We're also flying to KLAX. So we're going to plug that in. So KLAX is going to be our destination. And then we want to go down to co-route. What that is the actual name of the FMS file that you downloaded from SimBrief. In our case, it's CYYZ KLAX 05. For you, if it's the first time you're downloading a flight plan from CYYZ to KLAX, it'll probably be 01 at the end. That's probably what you're going to want to plug in here. Something else that I used to do back in the day is I used to just rename them. So I would do like CYYZ KLAX and take out the 01 at the end, but you can just name it. But you can just plug in whatever the file name is that you've downloaded from SimBrief. So in our case, it's CYYZ KLAX 05. We're going to plug that into the co-route, and that's going to put all of our waypoints and everything in. What I've noticed here is that the origin and destination have actually gone away. So what we want to do is we actually want to plug it back in. So we're flying from CYYZ to KLAX. There we go. And then we want to just navigate over to VNav, click on that. And here we can actually select our cruising altitude. So our cruising altitude today is flight level 380, so 38,000 feet. We're going to plug that into cruise altitude, and SimBrief should give you that number. We're going to click on next page here. This is actually our descent page. So as you see, we're going to have a target speed of 290 knots, or Mach 0.74. Our speed and altitude limitations are presented right below that. We're going to be below, or we're going to be at 250 knots below 10,000. And what else I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in another restriction, which is going to restrict us to 200 knots below 5,000. Plug that in right there. And when checking to see if all of this is good, what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the DEP ARR page, which is just our departures and arrivals page. We're going to select departures. SimBrief earlier told us that we're going to be taking off of runway 23, so we're going to select the runway first here. And then we're going to look for our departure SID and transition. So we're taking the URSL 3 departure. We're going to look for URSL. So the URSL 3 departure via the Zohan transition. And I'll also point out where it says that on SimBrief to make it easier for you guys. Now that the execute button has came up on in green, we're going to click that to execute everything. That's going to save it. We're going to go back to the departures and arrivals page. And it actually looks like KLAX didn't come in, so let's go back to the pilot route, and we're going to plug in KLAX. Pretty sure I already plugged that in earlier, but sometimes it comes off and it says unable 1100 at 1100. We're just going to clear that. That's just because our weight and balance of fuel isn't in yet, but once all of that is done correctly, all of this should go in, everything should fall into place. And if you guys want to watch a small tutorial on how to do that, I actually haven't set it up yet. It's sitting there and none of the numbers are crunched in. But once you do that, everything here should look good. So if you guys want to go watch a tutorial on that, I'll just link it right in the description, or maybe on one of the tags on screen or something. Yeah, hope that helps. When it comes to selecting the arrival, we don't actually want to select the runway first. In departure, you want to select the runway, and then you want to select the SID and your transition. But when it comes to arrivals, you want to actually select the star and transition before you select the runway. So keep that in mind. We're going to be doing the Angel 2 arrival. And in the sim, there's only an Angel 1. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just select the closest thing you have to what SimBrief is giving you. We're also taking the Hackman transition. And as you see, it gives us a ton of runway 06s, 07s. We're going to look for runway 25 left. So here it is, 25 left. There's an ILS for 25 left. And I believe there's also an RNAV for 25 left. The difference between an LNAV, or not an LNAV, an RNAV, and an ILS. For an ILS, that's the instrument landing system. Lining up your airplane for you, and what a lot of pilots do is they align the airplane with the ILS, so you capture the glide slope. And I can also do a video on this if you guys would like in the future. Just comment that down below, and if I get enough comments on it, I'll do it. Basically, you're gonna have to put in a frequency, like an ILS localizer frequency, and then you have to capture the localizer, get into the glide slope, and it'll automatically glide the airplane down for you. But what I actually like using is the RNAV, since you don't have to plug in any numbers, you don't have to find numbers, you don't have to crunch anything in. It pretty much just guides you down into the airport. And at the end of the day, usually for arrivals, at least for me, I hand fly them in the last few hundred miles either way. So let's just do an RNAV. Y or Z, it doesn't really matter. We're going to select Y, and we should be good. Let's just click execute, and then now we want to go over to the legs page. So as you see, we don't have any numbers for the whatchamacallit, for the climb here. None of the numbers are in, but if you do set up your weight and balance correctly, you shouldn't have gotten that error from earlier, and everything should come in correctly. But something that's important is you actually want to get rid of all your vectors and disconts. So we have to get rid of this vector here. So how are we going to do that? What we're going to do is we're actually going to take Tilum, and we're actually going to click the button right next to the vector, right next to the vector waypoint, and that's just going to get rid of that. We can just go through everything else and make sure we don't have any vectors. There's a discount here, so we're going to take Hackman, throw it in there. That should get rid of that discount. There's another discount here, get rid of that, and then we're into runway 25 left, and that looks like we're good. So we're going to execute that. And something else we want to do is we want to throw the navigation display over to plan mode. So you can just click plan here. I think you can also come up here and click, I think it's this button. Yeah, that should just switch it back and forth. We want to go into plan view. And if we actually hop down to the FMC, let's move ourselves back a little bit. You can actually step through each waypoint and watch to see if you're actually going to the right airport. And I usually like going to the arrival and making sure that everything's lined up correctly. So as you see here, runway 25, 25 left. If we zoom out a little bit, you can see that it perfectly comes in, and then we also have a holding point up to the left there if we need it. So everything looks great, everything's connected. Looks like we're not going to some random airport, and everything looks fine to me. And here we are, runway, what is this? Runway 23 for departure. If you zoom in there, you can see that once we get to runway 23, we should be on the path for our departure. So everything looks good. And just putting this out there, if you do take off and you're throwing on LNAV and VNAV and it doesn't follow the actual path, all you have to do is go down here, go to direct, and just take one of your, so let's just say it's just not going to Tilum, and your next waypoint is Tilum or something like this. Just take Ursel and throw it right into the top where the arrow is, and then execute, and that'll just take your plane and throw it straight to Ursel. So your airplane will basically just go straight to Ursel. Some departures, like I think the LAX departure, there's a certain runway that the Magknight doesn't really follow correctly, or I'm not sure if it's the Magknight or just the default FMC doing that. Haven't tested it with the normal FMC, not too sure. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't follow the path, and all you have to do is simply go to direct and push it up. And I think it also does it in the Zebo sometimes, so I don't think it's just the Magknight that it happens to. So that's pretty much all you really have to know about the default FMC. You also have your nav radios, everything here, your fixed information. If you guys want me to go through this in detail, I will, but basically to just get the airplane ready to just follow a flight plan. That's pretty much all you have to do. Make sure you set all of this stuff up here correctly after your plan here. So if you go to cruise and climb, you have your limitations, your cruise altitude. Actually, I don't know why that didn't save, but our cruise altitude is 38,000 feet. Thought I already plugged that in. So we have 38,000 feet there, and then we have our descent rate here, and our descent magnitude, which is there in degrees, or not magnitude, but our slope going down, and everything else should be good. I've never really played around with the hold page, but this is how you're gonna set a new hold and everything like that. Make sure that you set up your departing and arrivals, or else you'll just be flying right over the airport and it wouldn't actually bring you down and guide you into an actual runway. So make sure all of this is set up, and whenever this execute button comes up and you want to save something, click it, make sure it extinguishes from green, and you should be good. I think that's gonna sum up our whole tutorial here. This actually was a really short tutorial, but be sure that's just because I've been doing this for such a long time and just setting up the FMC for so many flights. Yeah, so happy flying, guys. Good luck, and if you have any questions, throw them in to the comment section below, and I'll be sure to answer them. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.